Whew, everyone fully recovered from E3 yet? Good, because Ultimate's next DLC newcomer is on the way. Sometime this summer. Rumors about Dragon Quest content and Erdrick in particular have been circulating for half a year, up to and including some code accidentally left in the base game that lended them some legitimacy. Whoops. But what we didn't expect was 3 more heroes from other games in the series to come along with them. They've been met with mixed reception among Western fans, part because Dragon Quest is more of a niche thing here, part because a lot of speculators have a stigma against anyone who sports a vaguely anime-like art style and fights with a sword. But over in Japan, where the series is practically a phenomenon, the response has been significant, to say the least. But beyond that, there are some genuinely fascinating things going on with the hero's moveset, and it's left a lot of smashers scratching their heads and wondering just how the hell this character functions. Well, that's what I'm here for. I may not have an analysis machine to fall back on, but noticing details and making movesets for characters is kind of my thing. So let's take a look under the hood and see how our next fighter functions, and talk about some theory about what his overall playstyle might be. First thing to note as we go over appearances and such is the obvious thing. We have not 1 hero playable, but 4. Available to choose from is the Luminary from Dragon Quest XI, the hero Erdrick from Dragon Quest III, the hero from Dragon Quest IV, given the default name Solo in-game if you don't pick something yourself, and the hero from Dragon Quest VIII, usually just called 8. After his game. Note that none of them have true quote-quote canon names. 8 and Solo are just easy shorthand, the Luminary is a title, and Erdrick is actually an honorific name given to him at the end of his game. Dragon Quest protagonists are meant more to be avatars with blank slate personalities the player can project themselves onto. A bit different from characters like Robin and Corrin who serve avatar roles but have fully developed identities of their own. Despite how different each of the quartet looks, they all play the exact same since they're just alts and not echo fighters, so you're free to choose whichever hero you feel most attached to. Helping that out further is their alternate palettes, each referencing 1 more Dragon Quest character. Angelo, a party member from Dragon Quest VIII, the hero of Dragon Quest V, the hero of Dragon Quest I, aka Erdrick's descendant, and Terry from Dragon Quest VI. They went all in on inclusivity here, eh? This aesthetic variance extends to their equipment as well, as each hero fights with a sword and shield from their games. The swords are even their respective ultimate weapons. And the shields aren't just for show. One clip in the trailer showed that, just like the 3 incarnations of Link in Smash, the hero's shield blocks projectiles from the front. This should help out in combat against opponents who rely on throwing out constant walls of projectiles, or anyone with an itchy trigger finger in general. We also got a glimpse of a couple taunts in the trailer. One has the hero striking an obligatory fantasy heroic pose. Sure, it's cliche, but when you created half the classic JRPG tropes, you're allowed to. One other taunt has a slime poof in from out of nowhere and divert the hero's attention for a moment. Hey, it's such an iconic monster that I'm not surprised they found a way to sneak one in somewhere. But how about the moveset proper? Before we delve into the complicated stuff, let's start with the hero's regular attacks. First, the jab combo is a fairly typical 3 hits. The animation's a bit interesting, like a hybrid of Roy's and Link's jabs, with the sword swung in what almost looks more like a chopping motion than a slash. Gives it some semblance of its own identity, you see. The hero's up tilt is a fairly standard overhead swing. Again, looks typical, but it doesn't need to be all that crazy when it can serve its purpose as an anti-air move well enough. Seems fairly laggy at the end, so it probably won't combo into anything, but a little hop at the start should give it pretty good vertical reach. That range carries over into the hero's back air, a big reverse slash that appears to have a ton of startup but covers a large arc. The lag on it means you definitely won't be able to throw it out with an opponent breathing down your neck, but since moves that laggy tend to hit hard, it might be a strong kill option. Might even be an effective edge guarding tool with the size of that hitbox. The hero's dash attack is pretty much identical to Link's, up to and including identical frame data apparently. So similar stuff applies here. Hits hard, but you have to commit to it and it's easily punished, so save it for the right times, like catching landings or predicting your opponent's going to try to roll away. The hero's forward smash is a powerful looking 2-handed swing that brings his sword down for a critical strike. Definitely a kill move with an animation like that, but I think this clip is a little deceptive. I don't think the zoom in is an inherent part of the move. I'll explain in a bit. If everything seemed like kind of basic sword fighter fare so far, then good news. The hero's forward tilt, as we saw here, shakes things up a bit with a shield bash followed by a forward slash. Based on the animation, I think this one's gonna be 2 inputs, making it trickier to punish since you'll be able to choose whether to stop after the first hit or continue into the second. There may even be partial invincibility on the shield as well, like with Palutena's moves that use hers. If there is, this move will be an invaluable part of the hero's neutral. This clip in particular gives us multiple moves to look at. To the left, the Luminary is performing a neutral air, a circular swing similar in style to Ike's and Cloud's. With startup closer to the former, it's not a quick get-off-me tool, but it has better overall reach than Cloud's Nair, covering from above and to the sides very well, though you'll still be kind of vulnerable from below. It may also be a good combo starter, but we can't actually tell what its knockback will be like, since in this clip it hits Ganondorf at roughly the same time as the up smash Erdrick is doing on the right, a rising stab with some force behind it. It'll likely have a similar niche as Marth and Lucina's up smash, a strong KO option that requires some precision to hit with since it's a straight line and not a big sweeping slash. But there's one more move to look at in this clip. The very beginning of it shows the Luminary using what appears to be a down tilt, a low kick potentially based on the leg sweep skill from a couple Dragon Quest games. While it won't be as effective at poking from a distance compared to Martha, Roy, or Corrin or the like since there's no sword involved, it may be quicker to come out in comparison. And based on how it knocks Snake straight upward, it ought to be a good combo starter as well. Finally, it seems that won't be the only hand-to-hand technique in this fighter's arsenal, as this screenshot shows a rising kick that appears to be the hero's up air. Sure, it might be the up throw animation instead, but based on how the screenshot is arranged and the fact that the Luminary's got his sword and shield in both hands, I'm leaning toward it being an aerial. Having a more Mario-like up air could be a really interesting way to diverge from the other sword fighters on the roster, with an up-close attack that is quicker and very combo-friendly compared to most of them, making for easier follow-ups near stage level, but since it won't have a big disjointed hitbox to cover space with, the hero may be less effective at juggling opponents than most of his counterparts. With that out of the way, let's get into the interesting stuff. Dragon Quest protagonists traditionally use a blend of sword and magic, and the hero in Smash is no exception. And just how magic was worked into the moveset is unlike anything we've seen yet. The hero has the ability to bring up a menu mid-battle to select from a list of spells to cast. Based on the glimpse we caught of one set, and the sheer number of spells that appear in the trailer, it seems like each special will have up to 4 spells available to choose from, letting you tailor your moveset mid-match to whatever you need most. It seems you'll have the freedom to either bring up the menu or quick cast whatever spell you already have assigned to a special, which would give it some much needed versatility since having to bring up the menu every time would give all your spells extra startup no matter what and make them more of a commitment overall. My guess is holding B for a special will bring up the menu while just tapping it will quick cast. But if you're worried about fighting against this character and feeling intimidated by this massive move pool, the hero's other main mechanic keeps this gigantic list of specials in check. Each spell costs a certain amount of mana points every time you use them. Running out of mana means losing access to an entire side of your moveset all at once, so it'll be up to hero players to plan ahead and ensure that doesn't happen. We don't know yet how you'll be able to restore your mana supply. Maybe it slowly regenerates over time, maybe you get a little back each time you deal damage, maybe something else. But whatever that method ends up being is going to be a crucial part of the hero's playstyle. So, what about the magic itself? The most basic spell of the bunch, Frizz casts a fireball directly forward as a no-frills zoning tool. It seems you can hold the charge to cast stronger variants instead, with the downside of the higher levels being easier to see coming and therefore harder to hit with. Between the clips in the trailer and this screenshot, there seems to be 3 levels of charge available, and you can hold a full charge for a while before unleashing it for mix-ups and stuff. But you probably won't be able to store the charge the way you can with Robin's Thunder magic, since we haven't seen anything suggesting that's going to be a thing. On from basic fire to lightning, Zap is a quick-moving electric bolt that, based on the clip that keeps on giving, appears to pierce through targets just like with Rob's laser. This spell also has multiple levels of charge, and based on this screenshot, it seems you may even be able to aim it straight up in addition to forward. I've seen some people suggest this is an enhanced up smash of some kind, but I think this is just a Zap variant, based on the slightly different pose and the fact that the hero is not holding his shield here. This spell should be good for attacking on chip damage from a distance, and if it destroys projectiles on contact, can also be a useful tool for unseating campy opponents. The hero's ice magic comes with a twist, as he infuses his weapon with it instead. Crackle Slash is a recurring technique in the Dragon Quest series, and here it takes the form of a frigid slash that freezes anyone it hits. Again, I've seen some suggest this looks like an enhanced forward tilt, but the shield being on his back once again gives it away as being one of the hero's specials. We don't know if this one will be chargeable or not. On one hand, if it was, it fit in better with Frizz and Zap and be a way to work the basic ice spell Crack into the moveset in some fashion. But on the other, there's actually no such thing as Crack Slash in the games, so the jury's out for now. On the less traditional stuff, Snooze sends out a magic circle that causes anyone it contacts to fall asleep on the spot. Anyone who's been the victim of Jigglypuff's Sing knows how potentially dangerous that can be, especially since we know the hero has at least a couple strong kill moves. However, since it's pretty slow-moving, punishable if it misses, and sleep doesn't work at all on anyone in midair, it's not going to be something you just throw out, rather more of a scary mix-up to keep in your back pocket. As a potential recovery move, Kaswoosh summons twin cyclones to the hero's sides that propel him up and away and cover his escape. This thing looks like it'll be one hell of an edge-guarding tool, giving you nearly free damage against linear recoveries, but it'll likely be kept in check by its mana cost. You might even be able to charge it based on the beginning of the clip, but it's kinda ambiguous. Zoom is a more traditional recovery, launching you upward at rapid speed. There's a lot we don't know yet about this one. Can you move during it to avoid attacks or adjust your recovery angle? How much distance does it go? If you touch a stage surface going up, will you hit your head and suffer a ton of end lag like when you try to use it indoors in the games? We're not even close to done yet. Bounce is a reflector with a twist. Based on this clip, it seems it lasts a while and you can move freely after setting it up. You figure there'll be some downside though. My guess is it won't have a hitbox, making it a complete waste of mana in the face of any attacks that aren't projectiles. Another odd defensive move, Kaklang encases the hero in metal, making him completely invulnerable to all damage, but also completely unable to move. How useful it'll be will probably depend on the end lag. Blocking stuff in a pinch is nice and all, but if you're vulnerable for too long afterward, you'll just get punished anyway. And for the strangest spell on the list, Kamikaze deals tremendous knockback to anyone around you by blowing yourself up. This thing has a huge hitbox, can't be interrupted once you start it, and even appears to be unblockable. The downside being that it's very telegraphed and easy to avoid if you're too blatant about it, and also the whole using it kills you on the spot thing. And since the trailer shows the hero dies first before the knockback happens, it's completely useless if you're on your last stock. Finally, we have the hero's final smash, starting with the mighty Giga Slash technique. If it hits, a cinematic kicks in that summons the aid of every past hero who isn't playable. This brave band of protagonists then lends their energy to their counterparts, who channels it into an even stronger slash for a devastating finishing blow. Whew, while that's every spell we saw in the trailer, there are more that didn't appear that we know exist. The clip that showed off the menu mechanic also revealed the 3 other spells in the same set as Snooze. Sizzle is an alternate fire spell that, in Dragon Quest proper, takes the form of a moving wall of flame that hits all enemies. I could see its Smash counterpart being a moving hitbox that travels along the ground to catch landings or force far-off opponents to move. Oomph is a generic temporary buff to your attack power, which isn't very flashy but is nice to have. Psych Up raises the power of the user's next action. It'll be a stronger buff than Oomph, presumably, but requires you to make your next hit count. We actually may have got a couple glimpses of this one. The very end of the bounce clip shows something that looks an awful lot like Psych Up's animation in Dragon Quest VIII. And I think this spell being in effect is what caused the zoom in on the hero's forward smash. Finally, this is on the ambiguous side, but I think we might have got a glimpse of one more spell in this screenshot. Heal is a recurring and particularly iconic spell that almost every hero throughout the series has had, and it would make some amount of sense to sneak it in here. It'd have to be carefully balanced between its percentage healed, mana cost, and the amount of time it'd take to cast in order to keep it from encouraging stall tactics, but I could see it being a thing. Though there's also the chance of this screenshot being heavily staged to just reference heal, so nothing's for certain yet. So I've got a couple theories for how the hero's magic is set up and which spells may be assigned to which special. The first is the most straightforward. Basic elemental magic on neutral, the set from the trailer on side, recovery moves on up, and the defensive and unconventional ones on down. This setup leaves up to 3 spell slots unaccounted for. Potential fill-ins include the explosive spell Bang and its stronger variants as the 4th neutral spell, and the teleporting magic Evac as one of the up spells. My other theory is a bit different from the speculation I've seen. What if Zoom is the only up special? Having a single recovery move that doesn't cost any mana would ensure the hero never has to worry about being completely helpless off stage with no chance to even stall to replenish resources. This setup has Kaswoosh's base version as the 4th neutral spell to create a quartet of chargeable elemental magic, which would explain the animation at the start of its clip. This setup would also mean we may know every one of the hero's spells already. That said, there are other questions this theory fails to answer, like why the thinking animation shown when the spell menu comes up in the trailer also shows up at the start of Zoom if it's the only spell tied to that special. So we're not entirely sure what's going on here yet. Overall, we have a unique and very complex character headed our way soon. So what kind of fighting style might we be looking at here? With a combination of swordplay and magic, the hero will likely be a quote-quote mixed zoner who controls space with either projectiles or disjointed hitboxes based on which works better in the current matchup or situation. I think his regular attacks will be pretty average to mediocre on their own, meaning you won't win many straight fights using just your A moves. This will be compensated for by the incredible versatility of the hero's magic, and the ability to customize your spell loadout mid-match to exploit your opponent's weak points. For example, Frizz will probably work as an all-around zoning tool that can harass characters who struggle to get around it or force aerial approaches, while Zap's piercing ability will help against other zoners, especially projectile-heavy ones, and Kakrakel's Slash is better suited for mid-range combat when you want to stay closer to your opponent, and you'd be able to choose whichever of them works best at the moment. For other examples, Bounce works as further anti-projectile insurance, Kaklang helps nullify moves with a lot of wind-up or save you from long-range landing traps like Samus's Charge Beam, Oomph and Psych Up shine when you want to focus more on swordplay than projectiles. There's a lot of different options at your fingertips here in a way that no other character can hold a candle to. However, that versatility will be kept in check by a couple factors. For one, since you can only have one spell per special at a time, a smart opponent's going to know what you have active and adapt accordingly, requiring you to adapt back in turn. For two, since each spell costs mana and we don't know how easy it'll be to replenish that, you may be limited in how often you can actually tap into that versatility. Playing as the hero is going to feel just like playing an action RPG, all about moving around and attacking in real time while menuing on the fly to pick special attacks, all while keeping tabs on your resources so that you don't run dry when you need it most. The more prepared you are and the more you know about your opponent, the more capable you'll be of assessing each situation and picking the right spells for the job. Which is actually pretty fitting. Dragon Quest created so many of the tropes we associate with Eastern RPGs today, so of course fighting as a protagonist from the series would feel just like if you were playing one. So, what do you think of this next newcomer to join the fight? Looking to be one hell of a unique addition to a roster that just keeps growing. How about you? Are you interested in taking these legendary figures for a spin yourself later this summer? What are your thoughts on the hero's moveset, and/or on the stage accompanying him that we still know so little about? I'm especially interested to hear what those of you who are really into Dragon Quest think about this. Do you feel satisfied with how Sakurai and the DLC team are interpreting everything? Always interesting to hear the takes from people most familiar with the source material. Special thanks goes to these names here for background assistance and feedback, among other things. Thanks as well to my patrons for their support. If you're interested in becoming a patron, check the video description for a link for further information. And so, now all that's left is to wait until we find out more. But we must, right?